All right, Awesemo, here we go. We are live. It is the MLB First Look Overnight podcast coming to you by MonkeyKnifeFight as our sponsor. Getting it in under the wire here. We have Opening Day MLB. I am, of course, your old pal EMac, and I am joined by Harish Goud, who has been a phenomenal gamer out there in the world. He's hiding under his DFS name. We'll let him tell you who he is, but many live finals in all of the sports, multiple six-figure wins. Harish, how are you doing? Welcome to Awesemo.
Thanks, EMac. Glad to be here. Excited to be part of the Awesemo's team. From my perspective, I've been playing DFS from last 8-9 years. So I usually play heavily on DraftKings, sometimes on FanDuel, and Goud is my handle on I think everywhere. So.
Gotcha. Well, it's good to kind of know who I see at the top of the leaderboard. You've been mixing it up with Alex, Awesemo, of course, and Chipotle Addict, and the Colts, and all of the usual luminaries, I guess, for years now.
Yeah. Not at the level of Alex, but yeah, I'm trying to get there slowly.
Well ahead of the rest of us, or well, most of us, but that's okay. We all have stuff to aspire. So we're very happy to have you with us here. I do want to point out that this show will be 5 days a week. This will be a Monday through Friday show. We'll be posting it every night, and this will be your first look at the MLB slate for each day. MonkeyKnifeFight is bringing this to you. So at MonkeyKnifeFight, we want to talk about the Home Run Derby. This is going to happen every Friday there during the 2021 MLB season. However, for opening day, they're kicking off with a special Home Run Derby contest. So go over there and check out that Home Run Derby jackpot that's going to be split amongst those who correctly select the 3 players that hit a home run on opening day. Pick the 3 players who hit a home run, and you could win $20,000. It is just that simple. So stop what you're doing. Head on over to MonkeyKnifeFight.com right now to enter. You'll see it right there on the homepage. Better yet, when you sign up, use the deposit code Awesemo as your promo code, and they will match you up to $50 with that initial deposit. Step up to the plate and sign up with MonkeyKnifeFight today. All right, so you guys got to know a little bit about Harish. Let's talk a little bit about the slate now. We've got some interesting, I don't want to say shenanigans going on. We can't say bad things about opening day MLB. However, the sites are all handling the slate differently. So FanDuel is going with the 1 o'clock games. They're going with the first 11 games. They will have a later slate as well. We also have Yahoo and Superdraft that are starting their slate and going through all of the night games with those 11 o'clock games. DraftKings doing it a little bit differently. They're starting at 2 o'clock. There are 2 games in the 2 o'clock hour, and then they're going through the night games. So that will sort of help us out if we're looking to chase some overlay, playing on multiple sites, not wanting to worry about things. DraftKings does have all-day contests, and they do have some other contests that are starting in those earlier games. They've been releasing, or with those earlier games, they've been releasing different formats with their tiers contests and some other stuff. Those were spawning today. So we'll get the lay of the land. We'll figure all this out, but there will be overlay tomorrow on most of the sites. Be smart when you're going after it. And don't forget about that Home Run Derby, that special one over there on MonkeyKnifeFight. All right, we have 2 games here to start out the main slate. We don't really have a lot of weather to look at here, so that is kind of nice. It's raining today in DC. They are hosting the Mets on the 1st, which of course we're recording this the night before, but there should be no weather issues there. So our first question, I guess, since these sites are not making this easy for us, who do you like first? We'll just focus on our first 2 games. In the pitchers that, of course, stand out are going to be Garrett Cole facing Toronto, who has a 3.3 implied run total. And then we have Shane Bieber going against Detroit, who has just a 3.2 run total. Do you dislike these guys? How do you like them for the full slate? The floor is yours.
I think Cole for sure. He should be a first option. I think he has the league highest strikeout rate at like 38%. And whatever stats we are speaking of is for 2019 and 2020, because 2020 season was short. So whatever numbers we throw out there, it's for including 2019 and 2020. So speaking of that, so Cole right now has like 38% strikeout rate, which is like the league highest, and then Bieber has like 33.5 or something like that. So he's like fifth highest in the league. So I think definitely both should be your top options on FanDuel if you're playing the at the FanDuel. But like you do have other options, but the price is so high. If you want to fit in the course, then probably you have to look for other options though.
Well, I guess we're kind of burying the lead there. As we get into the main slate, we'll talk about that. And when I say the main slate, kind of the crossover games now, as we look at what is going to be at least on everyone's slate. So what we're going to do here, in the interest of time and organization, is we're going to take whatever of the crossover player pool we can, and we will just go over the pitchers. That'll be the focus of the First Look podcast, because we don't know exactly who is going to be in the starting lineup. Now, for baseball, we can usually guess. If someone has heavy platoon splits, which means they are better against righties or better against lefties, and worse against the opposite pitchers with the opposite handedness, then they'll be the ones that likely platoon, meaning they share the role with somebody else. So when you get a guy like Clayton Kershaw on there, who's one of the best lefties the game's ever seen, perhaps people that are left-handed hitters who generally have a harder time facing fellow lefties, and righties have a hard time facing fellow righties, but in particular lefties versus lefties, you may see some of the people sit or step down in the order. We'll know that there's sort of a gentleman's agreement that will announce the starting lineups. Each of the teams will announce their starting lineups about 2.5 to 3 hours before first pitch. Now, they, of course, reserve the right to change things because someone, tweaks a hamstring, shagging fly balls, or has a bad swing in the cage before the game, and they need to scratch somebody. The scratches, there's maybe only 1 or 2 each day, and that's not per team, unlike the NBA, which we're used to changing over entire rosters at a moment's notice. We have a little bit more time to plan for baseball, so it makes things a little bit easier. But we said Clayton Kershaw. We're going to set him aside because we have a game at Coors Field. The Dodgers, I think they were pretty good last year. Oh, that's right. They won the World Series. They'll be taking on the Rockies in Coors Field. We'll get to that later. But let's talk about the good pitchers. We have plenty of shows tomorrow starting at 6:30 with Josh Engelman and the Process Show. And then we have 2 shows before the initial 1 o'clock lock. So we've got you guys covered. We'll have more starting lineups and everything as that all is going out. But at least we know who the pitchers are going to be for opening day. So Harish, we have Yu Darvish, who is with San Diego now. They're hosting the Arizona Diamondbacks. We have Aaron Nola. People should know him. He's been an ace-level pitcher for the last couple seasons. He'll be taking on the Atlanta Braves in Citizens Bank Ballpark. And then we have Tyler Glasnow, who's been pretty good. A lot of strikeouts, sometimes burns through his pitch count. He's going to be in Miami. Remember, no universal DH this year, so the National League is back to the pitchers hitting. This is kind of our trio to target. What are some of the things you know about these guys?
Yeah, definitely Yu Darvish based on the matchup, but he's like 10.1 on DraftKings. He has like 31.3% K rate. After Yu Darvish, it's going to be Tyler Glasnow, and again, he's going against Marlin. So if I have to rank Yu Darvish, Nola, and Glasnow, then probably I'll put Darvish at 1, Glasnow at 2, and Nola at 3. Again, I'll be fading Kershaw on this slate. Basically, I'm doubtful if Dodgers going to throw Kershaw at maybe they'll stop him at 80 pitches or 75 pitches, something like that. So I don't want to take a risk at 9.5K. 9.5K. So I'll rather fade Kershaw and then look for options like Darvish, Nola, and Glasnow.
And that's actually a good point to bring up for everybody, and one that I know because this will be my 10th year of DFS MLB, and like year 30 or 31, I'll have to go back and count for regular fantasy baseball. I've been playing for quite some time. Oh, I can do the math easy. The first year I played was April 1990. So yes, this will be year 31. Good times to be had by me. But with regards to the pitchers, the people that are going today, for the most part, are going to be the aces. Now, in general, they will have had the full spring training. So this was unlike last year where everybody had the spring training, and right before we got to opening day, that week or 10 days before, they shut everything down for the pandemic. And then the pitchers had to ramp back up again. The thing about pitchers is they have to get their arm in shape. And by starting, it takes usually almost a 6-week process. So it takes time to build up the strength, long toss, etc., because the human body is not designed to throw things 97 miles an hour, and it's a lot of stress on the body. So they have to get ready to do that. Most of the pitchers today should be good to qualify for the win. That means that they're able to go through the 5th inning. And then if their team is ahead and remains ahead for the entire game, whoever was the pitcher of record in the 5th inning gets the first shot at the win. Of course, the bullpen can blow it if they tie or end up going behind. The other thing you want to remember on FanDuel is we do have the quality start. So the quality start is a pitcher has to go 6 innings and give up 3 runs or fewer. So that's also important to know. The pitchers you would think of as aces have a decent chance today to make it into the 6th inning. The other thing we want to remember is there's a lot of cooler weather out there because it's the spring, and there's supposedly the MLB, which didn't do anything to the baseball to make it jump off the bats the last 2 years, is not doing anything again, but it's not going to jump off the bats as much. So we were used to seeing those 5 and 6 run implied totals. Remember, that was because we were doing this in the summertime. We didn't have the cold snap of the spring because that was during the pandemic, and there was the universal DH. So some of these implied totals are going to feel a little bit lower. Anything that's below 4 is probably a good matchup for your pitcher. Anything that's a little higher is probably a good matchup for the hitters, but that's just where we are today. All right. Anything else you want to mention here a little more in some of our pitchers? Anybody scare you going against you? Darvish, maybe a Peralta, a Walker, anybody with power, anything like that?
Not much, but as I said, like I was rating Nola in the 3rd and the top 3 best pitchers, right? That's only because of the good hitting team of Atlanta Braves. If not, like I would have put him in the top 2. And also I would put the Kyle Hendricks maybe in the discussion because he's going against Pittsburgh and the wind is blowing in Cub Stadium. So, that stadium is completely dependent on the weather, right? And when I was looking at the projected starters for Pittsburgh, there are like more than 6 bats who strike out like at 20%. So definitely Kyle Hendricks is in discussion, and he's 7,700 on DraftKings. He has like over 20% strike rate and 3.2% ERA, 3.27 ERA. So he should be in the discussion for SP1 on DraftKings.
The one thing that we want to remind everybody about as well with Kyle Hendricks is it's not Joe Madden who's his manager anymore. No, he is over in Los Angeles. He's the skipper now for another year for the Angels. So what was happening a lot of times is Hendricks was a pretty efficient pitcher, but he generally didn't go more than 80 or 90 pitches, and he'd get to about the 5th inning and change, maybe the 6th inning, and he'd get pulled. And he always had these great numbers and projected pretty well, but he'd get pulled usually about an inning in the 3rd sooner than daily fantasy gamers would like, because we'd be losing out on 4 outs and 1 to 2 potential strikeouts. So that's something that we saw last year, that with the new manager, they're letting him go deeper. So that's a good call out there. And then as well with the weather, it's not as dramatic as it has been with the wind blowing in or out once they did those renovations a couple years back. However, it is definitely still a concern to take, or a consideration to take, if the wind is coming in or out, because heck, Vegas won't even post those totals until the morning of, because they want to see for sure which way it's flowing. If they're going to pay attention to it, we should probably pay attention to it a little bit as well. All right, let's look at our next tier of pitchers here. So now's where we're going to kind of get into that little mixing and matching. And this is where we'll want to see who is in the starting lineups. But we have our next group of guys, solid strikeouts numbers across the board for this quartet. They all happen to be facing each other. Well, 2-2, but they're also pitching in hitting friendly venues. So Luis Castillo is at home in the Great American Ballpark. You guys know we like to call that the Great American Small Park. Now it's smaller dimensions, but the humidity and heat that hit Cincinnati in the late spring and throughout the summer, that's not going to be a concern right now. If the wind's blowing out there, they are a smaller ballpark. It's not a tiny ballpark, but it's definitely smaller than on the smaller side. That plays better for home runs. But Luis Castillo and Jack Flaherty, both good strikeout pitchers. They're going to be going against a lot of good hitters, though. Makes it tough. And then our other duo that's facing each other, Kenta Maeda, who is with Minnesota again, and Brandon Woodruff, they'll be in Milwaukee. Now, there's a decent chance the roof is closed in Milwaukee because it's probably not going to be anything more than the mid-60s there. If it ends up being a nicer day, they'll open it. But again, it's really going to be, whether it's closed or not, it's going to be about 69 and cool or whatever, whether the roof is closed or whether they have it open. What do you like amongst these guys? Because we love strikeouts. They are the king in DFS sports.
So strikeouts are there, but the only thing which worries me about Castillo is his walk rate. If you see, his walk rate really went up. He was at like 6%. Now he's at like 11%. So that's the only thing which worries me. And then Cardinals bats are very patient at the, they wait for those pitches. So I think that's the only reason I may not go to Castillo, but Jack Flaherty for sure. He is the best option in that tier. And then even Kentamaida and Woodruff, I think you should be in a position to play them in SP1. Yeah.
All right. The interesting thing about Flaherty is he has close since the beginning of our season and change. I'm going to be defaulting to saying since the beginning of last year. What I really mean is the beginning of 2 years ago, but it's only a season and a half worth of data. He has a nice XFIP, about 3.2, almost a 30% strikeout rate. Walk rate kind of on that higher edge, about 9.2, but he usually makes up for it with the strikeouts. The thing that we have to watch out for him is sometimes lefties can get him, especially for power. So lefties have about a 200 ISO, and what they've got is so that's isolated power. And basically what that's doing is measuring the number of extra base hits or extra bases someone gets on a hit. So sort of how that works is anything above 200 for a batter is pretty elite. Anything above 300 is like, Hank Aaron status, Mike Trout status, Mike Trout against lefties. So that's like, oh my God. And the average is like, 145, 160, depends on what the ballpark is and what they're going to be doing with the baseball. For comparison, righties against Flaherty, 0.063. So that's very, very low. That means they're generally going to hit singles and nothing else against him, or they're going to hit it hard on the ground and they're going to, get to first or whatever, but they're not going to get much beyond that. So that's always something that you kind of want to think about as well. So he and Castillo are kind of similar in that matter because Castillo, same thing. He has about a 180 ISO against lefties and same about 0.068 against righties. So if this is where we say it's important to know the lineup, because as people get hurt or as we get different manager tendencies, if we were to see either of these guys in the future going against a righty heavy lineup, that would be same-handed pitcher versus same-handed hitter. That's going to play in the pitcher's advantage. Could they give up runs? Could they give up hits? Could they give up home runs? Yes, but they're better off with their strikeouts, suppressing power, etc. So that's where we'll say, oh, we want to see the lineup. We really are looking for a tiebreaker. Now it's opening day. We kind of know who's going to start for most teams, but these are little things to file away and dust off because we have about 200 days of baseball ahead of us. So we want to make sure that we get all of this set up. Anything you want to mention?
If you're not paying up for the pitchers, right? Like on the slate, you have San Diego, you have Dodgers, the bats who you want to pay for. Definitely Maeda, Castillo, then the Kyle Hendricks. These are the pitchers probably you'll fit in as your SP1 and SP2 under DraftKings. Then you'll punt the other spots, I guess.
So do you like? Well, let's talk a little strategy because we'll have a few minutes here, and then we'll kind of round out with some of our riskier pitchers because that'll be who we want to take batters against. But this will transition us nicely over there. Oh, but before I forget, I do want to remind everybody we have an amazing deal here at Awesemo. We are giving away 9 days of all access MLB premium content for just $9. That's promo code starting9 with the number 9. It's a phenomenal deal. You're going to get everything. You're going to get the player projections, the ownership projections, the top stacks tool, the lineup builder, and of course the premium Slack channel. Any of our paid subscriptions, you get access to all of our premium Slack channels, not just for the sport that you're in, but for all of the tools if you're just coming in on this one. But $9 for 9 days, hey, that's $1 a day. This offer is good through, wait for it, April 9th. There we go. A lot of nines here, but because of course, there's the starting 9 for MLB. Check that out for awesemo.com. All right, so you like to play a fair amount on DraftKings, it sounds like. That's usually where I play. And then my secondary site for baseball is Yahoo. I like both those sites because I like to play two pitchers. And I feel that there's a little more decision points in there. Sometimes you want to go with 2 aces. Maybe there's a few underpriced hitters, and that works out for you. Sometimes you want to go with cheap cheap pitchers, because as you mentioned, we get games in Coors Field. We get games, in stadiums where the wind's blowing out or it's really hot or there's crappy pitchers. Hi, looking at you, Baltimore Orioles. But those are the kind of strategies we like to look at. Do you default to one or the other? Do you usually like to build your quote main lineups around your pitching? And this will, of course, change throughout the slate. But if you had an ideal slate, no Coors Field on it, how would you approach your general builds?
So on this slate specifically talking, right? So there are 2 highly owned, probably I'm assuming Dodgers. I was checking Awesemo's top stacks tool, right? So the Dodgers are getting around 25% ownership, and the San Diego was getting 15% ownership. That's like taking 40% of the ownership, right? So if I am playing those stacks, then probably I'll play the mid-level pitchers who we spoke about, like Maeda, Woodruff, and all as my SP1. Then I'll punt my SP2 with Chad Cole or Gibson or Nate Eovaldi, who are like close to 6,000. Then I'll go with the best bats from the Dodgers and the Padres. That's the one route I'll take if the ownership is too high on the bats and they are like too priced. If I'm not paying up, or if I'm not playing Padres or Dodgers, then I'll pump my SP1 with like Darvish or Nola or Glasnow, and then I'll play the mid layer one like Maeda or Woodruff as my SP2, and then I'll play a balanced lineup. That's the route I usually take.
And that's one we'll want to think about. We can't really go on the first day. It's a little tougher to go stars and scrubs. Now, we're going to talk about some of the pitchers here that aren't exactly great. And, when we say, is there an ace? Well, there's really about 24 aces in the league. Some teams don't have any. Some teams have 2, but there's really not that many. And then generally pitchers are getting hurt a lot, or they're coming off Tommy John surgery, which is the elbow ligament replacement surgery, et cetera. Because again, as I mentioned early on, human body not designed to throw things 97 miles an hour. So there's a lot of wear and tear on the pitchers here. So, certain guys that have big names, sometimes it takes them a while to get into shape. Like Steven Strasburg has not had a good spring, getting knocked around quite a bit, but he is someone that last year and the last 2 years arguably been one of the top 5 pitchers in the league. So you got to figure out where are they in their training and conditioning and all of that. So usually these first few days, it's kind of it's a bit of a guessing game to figure out where everybody is, because the other thing about spring training, were they just working on a pitch? Were they Trevor Bauer and practicing pitching with their eyes closed? Allegedly. I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but these are the different things that we want to look at. Once we've got 7 or 8 starts under the belts for the pitchers, we'll be able to provide a little more guessing. Gets more educated guessing. I don't want to say that we don't know what we're doing, but it's baseball. Anything can happen. No matter who you are as a pitcher, a third of your games are going to be good. A third of your games are going to be bad. And it's the other third of your games that determines if are you a good pitcher or not. Can you work through it when you don't, quote, have the stuff? And that's where you see guys like Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, et cetera, battle through things. Zach Greinke. I mean, come on. Greinke has a fastball that's 87 miles an hour and a changeup that's 85 miles an hour. Those are supposed to be 10 miles an hour apart, not 2. Yet he battles his way through and somehow gets strikeouts. I don't know, but that would be the definition of battling through things. He just happens to have to do it every start, unlike some of these other guys. So as we get down here at the bottom, we've got, some veterans that are on the downside of their career, maybe a Madison Bumgarner. You've got some unproven talent yet, or inconsistent talent perhaps, with Max Fried. You got Herman Marquez. Tough matchup for him against the Dodgers. There will be times where we will want to take him in Coors Field against the defending world champions. Probably not today, but he's a guy that's always good to look to on the road. He has a lot of strikeout upside. Today will be a little rough. John Means, great changeup, but he's going to be pitching in the AL East for those small ballparks for the majority of his games. Makes it tough to trust him. But every now and then their prices or salaries will be suppressed somewhat, and that's when we pounce, when they get the good matchup. Sandy Alcantara doesn't always get the strikeouts, but he is at a good spot there with the Marlins. What do you like here amongst our other dozen pitchers that we haven't really talked about? Are any on your short list for your player pool?
Definitely Chad Cole. Actually, I was looking at the numbers. I think he should be a top priority in that range. definitely. So he has good strikeout, and then the wind blowing in the Cub Stadium. Probably I'll put him as my SP2 top one option. Then I'll go with Nate Eovaldi, who's going against Baltimore, who strike out a lot. Like he has like 24.4 strikeout rate. Then this may be only for GPP, but like what I was thinking is like if Dodgers are like over 25% owned in any GPP, right? I'd rather play Herman Marquez, who's got good strikeout rate at 23.3. I understand it's a Dodgers team who won the World Championship, etc., etc. But I think if you're playing GPP, I think you should throw at least like 7 to 8% of Herman Marquez. If Dodgers just score 2 or 3 runs and at 6.8K, you're looking good in your GPP lineups.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for those of you gamers who are new to this, a lot of us here at Awesemo, we like to play multiple lineups. Now, there's ways you can do it where it doesn't, you don't have to have thousands and thousands of dollars. I'm on that end of the spectrum. I usually like to play somewhere between 100 and 200 MLB lineups. But what I do is I enter most of the contests that are in the quarter and the dollar. And then what I do is I just treat it like it's all one big GPP, as if they're all the same payout structure. That works out for me. It's not a problem. I find some of their contests, the mini max, and some of those are a little too top heavy for my feelings. Over on FanDuel, if you want to get a practice on the mass multi-entry, they have the contest for a nickel and for a quarter. So you can get in there for $7.50 or $37.50, and you can experience what it's like to play 150 lineups. For baseball, because it's a game built on probability and it's an event-based game, meaning if there's a home run, that is a big score. It also hurts your pitcher. If there's no home runs, then everybody's trying to get by on walks, doubles, and extra base hits with somebody on base, right? The scores aren't as high. And if you put those right combinations together, that's where it works out. So kind of to build upon what Harish is saying is if you are taking a good pitcher like Herman Marquez, who has strikeout upside, you get the double whammy effect. He is not only holding down the Dodgers, which are going to be one of the most popular teams, but if he also has one of the top 5 or so pitching scores, maybe even top 7 on the two pitcher sides, all of a sudden he's one of the guys that there's a decent chance he's going to be low on and in the optimal lineup or close to it. So that's where all of a sudden people aren't taking him, because 25% of the field is going, I want the Dodgers. They're not going to take Marquez. And then half of us are going to be saying, I'm not going to take anybody in Coors Field. And then you got about 25% of the left of people that are either crazy or crazy like a fox. And with that plan, that's what Harish is talking about. Anybody else here on the bottom as we kind of wind up here? The one thing I wanted to say about Eovaldi, incredible fastball, not a lot of movement on it. And this is where you're going to want to listen to Adam Scherer and Laffy. We've got a whole bunch of shows going on tomorrow. I'll break those down for you in just a second. But what they'll do is they look a lot at pitch mixes. Greg does this as well. There's a lot of pitch mixes and changes. Eovaldi's someone that's sort of been changing his pitch mix just a little bit because he was too highly reliant on his fastball. The issue with his fastball, it was very, very fast. And it was very, very straight. So even though it would approach 100 miles an hour, if somebody connected and there were runners on base, good times for the opposing team. But that's something he's been working on. That's where we get all the good stuff at Awesemo. That's going to be on our DFS strategy show. That'll be on the live before locks. We'll hit a little bit of that on the Slate starter. But again, we just want to give you guys a bird's eye view, sort of build out your placeholder lineups. For those of you that are building 100, 150 lineups, it'll give you a good idea of who to weight in your player pool and different strategies that you can take. Any final words on the pitching staff?
I think Kyle Gibson should be another good option too. He's only 5,300. He's going against Royals. Maybe Vegas score may throw off some people because Vegas projects Royals to score over 5 runs. But I think Gibson is a pitcher who can give you 5 or 6 strikeouts, and then he can pitch you 6 innings. And I think that should get you around 13 or 14 DraftKings points, and that's optimal for you at 5,300 salary. So he should be in play.
Excellent. Well, we're going to wind this up. Again, we've got all sorts of content. This show was brought to you by MonkeyKnifeFight. Reminder, they're doing their special home run derby on opening day. If you use that promo code Awesemo, they will match you up to your first $50 deposit. That's at MonkeyKnifeFight.com. Check it out today. And then we have all the shows I was telling you about. We've also, right now, we're recording Separate from us, the NBA slate starter. So we've got that that will be posted by the time you're hearing this. We have at 6:30 the process with Josh Engelman. He spends 60 to 90 minutes just breaking down what he's doing to get ready for his day. For NBA, he shows you how he adjusts rotations and minutes and addresses injuries and different playing styles for different opponents. For baseball, he'll be doing similar things. Once we have a little bit more runway and track record, he'll start to look and say, what is this pitch doing? Is the pitch mix changed? Where's the velocity been, etc. But that's the fun stuff that you can kind of see. It's free on YouTube. There's usually 100, 200 people watching that. You put some questions in there, he will answer them because, he's by himself for 90 minutes. He needs something to talk to. At 10 o'clock, you're going to get the NBA strategy show with Adam Kaufman and Josh Engelman, and then it's baseball time. At noon, you get the MLB strategy show with Laffy, Alex Awesemo himself, and Terry McBride. At 1 o'clock, you're going to get the MLB Live Before Lock. That is going to be with Chris Spags and Greg Ehrenberg. At 2 o'clock, we're into the NHL strategy show. That is Jake Hari and Slim Cliffy. 3 o'clock, premium only, but behind the scenes, you're going to get the daily game plan video with Steve Buzzard, who will be hosting office hours with the screen share and video chat. So you can ask him any questions about any sports, different processes, what he looks at, etc. And then at 4 o'clock, we get ready for a little bit of NBA. We got the tip-off with Kayla, Chris Spags, and Ben Raza. 5 o'clock, we got the deeper dive with Laffy and Adam. 6 o'clock, we got Live Before Lock with Spags and Josh Engelman. And then 9 o'clock, special for MLB, we do have a late slate Live Before Lock. That is going to be with Terry McBride and new analyst Gundacker. You guys have probably seen him on Twitter. He's been around in the DFS world for quite some time. But there is going to be a 3-game late slate. There's already some large prize pools out there. So we're going to do a show for that as well. We've got you covered here at Awesemo. And last thing to remember, promo code STARTING9 gets you all the good stuff, the keys to the kingdom behind the paywall. $9 for your first 9 days, all MLB access. Promo code STARTING9 with the number 9. With that, thank you for joining me, Harish. We're going to have some fun this season. I'm looking forward to it. How was your first show?
It was nice. It was good.
Excellent. Well, we'll see how that goes, but we're going to get on out of here. So thank you, everybody.